We're not starting the maybe business no more than we're going to marry the maybe person. Those are not things that we want to do the maybes for. And that's, again, where the update calls come in. We may have we may talk 10, 12 times, sometimes more.
Welcome to Francoach's Franchising 101 podcast series. Here we talk about all things franchising. What is it all about? Is it for you? How do you find the best one to own? And so much more. Now your host, Tim Parmeter.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to Francoach's Franchising 101 podcast series. I am Tim Parmeter, founder and CEO of Francoach and your podcast host. There's a great number of things that we talk about throughout this series, and one of the sections is just trying to give people a little bit of an insight as to the process our clients go through with Francoach. Everything from the first call to being awarded a franchise, every little step in between. And there's one that we've not talked about yet, and that is we just simply refer to it as the update call. Once we introduce people to a franchise, from that introduction until we're all the way through the journey and ready to sign a franchise agreement, it's going to take 6 to 8 weeks. And we will have numerous update calls throughout the process. What we're going to talk about today is a little bit of what is the update call? When do we have them? Why do we have them? What are we trying to accomplish throughout all of that? So we are, as always, going to take a deep dive into this specific aspect. And today, again, it's the update call. But before we talk about all of that, let's first remind everybody who we are. Francoach is a national search firm dedicated to working with individuals who are interested in owning a franchise. We are partnered with well over 500 of the top franchisors in the country, spanning nearly 60 industries. Our goal is to help clients find the absolute best franchise for them to own. And our goal of the Franchising 101 podcast series is to help educate people on all aspects of franchise ownership. All right, that's us. Now let's get into the update call. So let's kind of back up this process here to start at what a novel concept, but let's start at the beginning. So typically how it works is we'll have an initial kind of get to know you 15, 20-minute call with folks, make sure there's generally some interest in exploring franchise ownership and kind of going over what our process is. Then we'll have a very thorough second call, usually an hour, for us to really kind of build from scratch what your ideal business model should look like as a franchise owner. And then that'll put us in position to do the research to get you connected to franchises. We usually start with 3-ish that we think could be the best match based on everything that you're looking for, right? And then we begin what's called the discovery process. And this is going to be a 6 to 8 week mutual vetting journey between you and the franchisors. And there's going to be, a dozen plus steps along the way. And for most everybody we're working with that are looking at this for the first time, guess what? This is the first time taking all of these steps. So there's a ton of info throughout that mutual vetting process, that discovery process, until we get to the end. Someone is awarded the franchise and ready to sign the franchise agreement. But we are not throwing you in the deep end. So if we were all of a sudden saying, all right, you want to learn how to swim, let's throw you in the English Channel and see if you can make it across. Not particularly a good idea. I still have flashbacks from swimming lessons as a kid, the Logan Sport YMCA, getting thrown in and then thrown up. And then to this day, I'm not a very good swimmer because that's not how you teach people. With ours, we're going to be much more step-by-step with this. And some of the things, again, just as we talk about, each step of this journey is the first time. So we're going to get you connected, but we're going to also talk to you, really almost an update call before you start, of what to expect when you start talking to the franchisors. Things along the way that we're going to get into. The FDD, the franchise disclosure document, is a 200 plus page legal document that is an easy place to get lost in the weeds. But we'll go over what it is, how to navigate it, how not to get lost in the weeds, but also understand what to look for and what is the kind of the key elements you want to take out of that. Understanding how we map out territories, the demographics, the scalability, if it's retail, if it's non-retail, what somebody's looking to get out of their business long term. We'll talk a lot throughout, we call it the get out of bed test. You're the one that's going to get out of bed, go to work every day at your business. We want to make this sucker as ideal as possible. And that will be a recurring theme as we're having our update calls to help you kind of understand that. The financial aspect of it, most people, this is going to be a real shocker, so you might want to take a note on this. Most people would like to make money. And at the very least, make the same as they were kind of taken home in the corporate world, which is usually much easier to do than people realize. Not to mention the long-term growth, the scalability, the wealth, the equity that you can build over time. We need to have an understanding of what people want and the timeline for that and their long-term goals, as well as the funding side of that. How do we make that happen? There are several different options for that. And by the way, like if you just pulled up your Franchising 101 podcast, wherever you listen to your podcast, or on our podcast website, franchising101podcast.net, like how I got that plug in there. There are podcasts specific to all of these. Ironically, this is like the last kind of piece of the franchise puzzle or Francoach puzzle that we haven't talked about yet. So the overall discovery process, being introduced to the franchisors, the FDD, the territories, the scalability, get out of bed, the scalability, the funding, the validation calls, discovery day, meet the team day, being awarded, and maybe one or two others I even forgot about are all on there. So as you're done listening to this and want to learn more about any specific thing, that's there. But these update calls are crucial because we're going to kind of help you spoon feed this info when it comes up. And as I mentioned, like the validation calls, when you start talking to owners, that's a huge aspect of the vetting, and to be able to understand what to ask, how to ask it, how to kind of piece together the financials, how to kind of read through the lines sometimes is key. And then the final piece of the discovery process, you'll hear the terms discovery day or meet the team day. Now you get to, guess what? Based on the name, meet the team, the entire franchisor team, from top to bottom, every last person that's going to be there to kind of help support you as a franchise owner. And then ultimately, hopefully after that, being awarded the franchise. Our update calls tend to happen, think of it kind of every round. Talk to the franchisors. If we start you with 3, talk to all 3 of them once. We will have a call scheduled. What did you learn? And there's a lot. And sometimes it's just simply helping keep the information straight. I can't stress this enough. It is a lot of information and it comes at you fast from these different franchisors. So keeping that straight, having an understanding of what you've learned, your thoughts behind it. We want to make sure that you're basing everything on accurate, correct information. Talking about what the next steps are. What are your questions? People like to use the phrase, I have a really concern about X, Y, and Z. Almost every single time, that quote concern really is just means we need more information. We have questions on that, right? Oh my gosh, I'm really concerned about the labor model for that particular franchise. Great. That's not a concern. It means we need more information, right? And so we're going to help make sure we understand when are the appropriate times in the process to get it. Where do we get it from, or who all do we get it from? How do we ask the questions, et cetera? So every single time we're going through round of calls with the franchisors, then we talk. We're also going to help understand when it is appropriate to kick one of the franchisors to the curb, politely, of course. We don't want it to happen too soon. That happens. It's not super common, but it does happen. We've had a couple good kind of funny stories with former clients that have tried to do that a little too early, then taken one more step. So again, we want to make sure it's appropriate and for the right reason. We also don't want people to kind of let one hang on too long, right? Well, I know this isn't the right fit, but geez, they're so nice. We're not trying to create, BFFs for long term with the people you're working with. We're trying to create that business model. So help understand that. We're also, based on the feedback that you're giving us throughout this, we're always evaluating to make sure we're on the right track. Maybe based on the information that you've learned, it's helped formulate or reformulate some thoughts, which means we need to pivot to maybe a franchise we didn't start with. The ones we start with, almost always, one of the 3 or 4 we begin with, almost always, that ends up being the right match. But there are times we've learned there's, still don't know what you don't know. So we learn some new things along the way, and it helps kind of reevaluate where we need to be. So we're definitely doing that. And then again, the farther along we go, making sure questions are being asked that maybe people didn't even really think of, or making sure we're not missing any steps. Again, the goal all the way at the end, we say this all the time to people, and I know they roll their eyes at me at the beginning, but when somebody gets all the way through, we're all the way done, we're through the meet the team day or the discovery day, you've been awarded the franchise, you're not going to be sitting there making a decision. It is going to be so crystal clear that you're going to go, yes, this is it. And anything less than that level of clarity means it's a no. But to get to that level of clarity means we've got to take all the right steps, talk to all the right people, ask all the right questions. That's going to get you to that level of clarity. We're not starting the maybe business no more than we're going to marry the maybe person. Those are not things that we want to do the maybes for. And that's, again, where the update calls come in. We may talk 10, 12 times, sometimes more throughout this. We're going to talk as much as needed, but that's where we're here to, again, help navigate and coach you through this process to help ultimately, number one, determine if this is even the right path for you. And if it is, and much more importantly, find you that perfect match. So when we talk about the update calls, that's what they are. That's when they are. That's why we have them. And again, that's why our clients work with us and are able to have the success that they have finding the perfect match for each person along the way. So that's the update call. As always, we hope you enjoy listening to our podcast. If you haven't yet, please subscribe or follow wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. We don't want you to miss any of our new episodes that come out. Also, check out the podcast-specific website. Again, I'll totally name drop this, franchising101podcast.net. franchising101podcast.net. Of course, our main site is francoach.net. The basketball guy here is a .netter, so we want nothing but net. It's the easy way to learn that and remember that. And if anything that you've heard along the way, whether it's this podcast or any of our other episodes, and makes you want to learn more about potentially becoming a franchise owner, then click the link in your podcast link, or again, find us online at francoach.net, send us a message, and let's set up that initial phone call. There is never, ever any fee for our service. So we encourage you to take that first step today to help create your better tomorrow. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Stay safe, and we hope to connect soon.
Thanks for listening to Francoach's Franchising 101 podcast, where our ultimate goal is to help educate you on all things franchising so you can create your better tomorrow.